Welcome, everyone, to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Electrical Supply Guys studios. We are part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms and newly acquired TuneIn app. You can hear us on the TuneIn app on the Believe radio station, so tune in there. Listen to all your favorite Believe podcasts, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. I'm your host, Porter Hayes of Sports and Culture Arkansas, and alongside me is Jacob Davis from Arkansas Fight and Saturday Down South. All shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in beautiful downtown Ozark. And Bet Online is the fastest, easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So head on over to Bet Online today. Use your mobile device, join today, and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50. Bet Online, where the game starts. And I think it was a big roller coaster of a game yesterday. Got out to a slow start, got to a 28-0 hole. Then the third quarter, you felt like magic was happening, and then the bottom fell out. I've predicted on a couple of shows on our stat predictions. I felt like this was going to be one of those program-defining moments. I felt that in the year that if they were going to beat Alabama, this was going to be the year that they could do it. They didn't. We have to quickly move on because we have another team coming up, Mississippi State at home. Again, SEC Nation will be there for the third time, featuring Arkansas. You got them at home, Arlington, and now away. So just what was your initial thoughts, painfully so, about the game on Saturday?
Well, it didn't turn out the way we quite wanted it to. I did predict Arkansas to win because I thought that the momentum was there, that it was the time for Arkansas to be back home and have a chance for a win and a program-defining moment under Sam Pittman, and they didn't do it. They, like you said, they had a 23-point lead, or a 23-point third quarter that they just kind of let slip away with I think Alabama running for 230-something yards in the fourth quarter, and it was really a rough day defensively. Offensively, you start out the game with 5 punts and 1 turnover. That's not a recipe for success. And, well, you go into this coming week, and you've got Mississippi State, and, you're going to have to figure out a way to stop Will Rogers in that Mississippi State air raid with Mike Leach. And it's going – the stretch does not get any easier with 3 road games coming up ahead. But you just wanted to get that monumental victory and maybe change the course of the season, which the season's not over yet. They're 3-2 going on right now, and they've got things they've got to get better at, and I alluded to that during my article with Saturday Down South that came out this morning. So, yeah, Arkansas's got a couple of things to fix, Porter, and, well, maybe more than a couple, but there are some cautionary points that we can talk about tonight about the Hogs going forward.
I think the biggest thing that frustrated me was they did everything to give Arkansas this game. I mean, the muff punt. Bryce Young goes out. And first of all, the yahoo for that entity that sat there and wants to brag about being the person that to hurt Bryce Young and wish injury upon him, that stands nowhere in the sportsmanship of this game. I know we like to get caught up in the heat of the moment, and we like to, talk trash and there's a certain time and place for it. And I kind of want to put that to bed. Like, there's no reason to sit there and say anything like that, especially at a college kid when you're a grown adult or whoever's running said account. I mean, that's just that does nothing to boast the game or anything to do with the game. And I hope that he's okay. And I hope that everything, because we're still talking about a kid's livelihood. It's not, that looked like a bad injury. So how long he's out, say go. But, with the injury, you're coming in with a backup quarterback that's basically running his own read all game long. And the onside kick, the bad snap, everything was going your way. And when I was on with Blake Ruffino, the SEC kickoff show, I said, he asked me, what was the one thing that concerned me? I said, third and long. Third and long, third and long, third and long. And that killed us all night. And then the fourth quarter came. And I'm going to read some stats to you. And you're going to look at these stats and listen to these stats. And you're going to think these are all game stats. 3 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 carries, 77 yards, which set up another score, 221 yards rushing. That was in the fourth quarter. I mean, and a couple of those were on third and long situations. You cannot have that, especially when you know what they're going to do. It was almost like the Darren McFadden days, but you're on the opposite side of it. You know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he mixed up the pass a little bit, but you knew for the most part he was going to sit there and read option, and they still killed us. And I said, 2 things that are kryptonite. The third and long is a kryptonite, and Bama. That's what makes Bama Bama. They put it in their backup, and he's, we see what's going on with our backup situation, and we'll get into that later on in the show. But they're still having, guys miss tackles that are so easy. You can't have that. And now it's starting to be the time when do we start questioning play calling? Do we really start questioning these players that are out there just missing blatant tackles? Do we start, where's this fine line of are we just going to accept mediocrity? Are we going to accept having a good first quarter of the season and then you have a game like this? Like I said, they did everything to give us the game, and you piss it away in the fourth quarter. I mean, you know well as how many times I said the recipe for an upset. You got to keep the momentum on your side. And that third and long where Milroe ran all the way down, I mean, he could have scored. I think they ruled him out of the 2, but, that was the game. That was the game where the momentum shifted. They ended up scoring and running away with the game. I mean, it's just, and then the thing is, you got a kicker who is not that good of a punter. You're still punting to this guy who's average. I mean, I don't know if you got the stats in front of you or not, but I mean, let me see. Punt returns. He had 3 punt returns for 75 yards and a long of 45, but you kept punting to him. I mean, and 75 yards does not seem like a lot, but when you're flipping field, that's huge. That's huge. Well, so there was like you said it perfectly. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on, because I don't know if you've seen the score of the Mississippi State game or not, but they put it on A&M.
I did not. I saw like the halftime. I knew they were up at like 14-0 at one point. I don't know what the final was. I don't have
42-24.
Well, I don't have ESPN currently, so I was not able to keep up with that game.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about that anymore. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Yeah. But another alarming stat. You were talking about third and long. I went back through play-by-play during the game, and Arkansas had Alabama in third down 5 times in the first half. 5 times in the first half, third and long. 3 of those third and longs were scored on touchdowns. Were scored touchdowns on third and long. The other 2 that were converted third and longs led to another score the very next play.
Yeah.
That shows you're right. Like third down and longs, third downs anyway, it's just been a killer. I don't know if it was because of the over-aggressive defense Obviously, they were playing a very, very, very tight defense at the line of scrimmage, a lot of man coverage, but they were also having the safeties like 6 or 7 yards from the line of scrimmage. And so when you're missing a tackle, you have nobody back there on the back end to keep these yards after first contact. I mean, even if they were getting contact on a carry, they were just getting these chunk yards, 77 yards, 60, 65 yards, 80 yards. It's just bang after bang after bang. And you're not going to beat a Saban-led team, and you're not going to beat Alabama with all these all-world athletes by giving up on third and long. So they've got to figure that out, because this has been the frustrating thing all year long. And even going back to the Chavis days, Arkansas has been having trouble on third down defenses for 5 or 6 years. And they have got to get it fixed. You've got guys like Drew Sanders, and you've got guys like Miles Slusher and Bumper Pool that were great high school pickups coming out of high school. They've got to play discipline. They've been in the program long enough, and they've got to be put in the position, because it's not always about the players. You've got to have your guys as a coach in position to make the best play possible, and they're not doing that right now. I don't know. I don't know what needs to be corrected or how to correct it, because I'm not a coach. I'm a spectator, and I'm a sports writer. I don't know what they need to do. I mean, we can talk about it all day long on this show, but until we see it on the field, in improvement on the field, I mean, all we're throwing at is suggestions up against the wall. I don't really know what needs to happen besides maybe putting your players in a better position. I don't know if it's play calling on defense, but they were very, very close to the line of scrimmage, all 11 guys yesterday on those 3 long runs in the fourth quarter.
I think they're becoming too predictable on offense, and they're becoming too predictable on defense.
Yeah.
How many times did you say the same blitz from the outside? Or why would you bring up a guy that when they're going to burn him deep, you bring your safety up, we're a linebacker, and then the guy just runs right by him? I mean, you don't have the guys, the dudes that you can bring a guy and cheat up. Yeah. Unless, and that's where it's tough. Is that on the coaching for, bringing him up? Is that on the player for coming up on their own and just letting them blow by you? I mean, there was so many plays where they were just getting burnt. And then, you're stunting from the outside, and you look at those runs, they're up the middle.
Yeah.
Most of those runs on third and long, you're stunting from the outside, and you're bringing like a corner blitz or an outside linebacker blitz, and the middle's wide open because your linebacker drops back. I mean, right. There's no – it's almost like them sliding puzzles that you see, where you move one here, you need to move the other piece. There's no covering. It seems like they're trying, but they're just outmanned. And Drew Sanders was just trying his heart out there. But like I said, Bumper Pool was out there, and he's usually a solid linebacker. He's usually solid at – he's going to be one of the all-time greatest tacklers at Arkansas, and he just was whiffing on too many plays yesterday. And we've preached this over and over and over this year. I'm not saying he's a bad linebacker, but you can't miss that many tackles, and especially, like I said, third and long when you need that momentum and you let them score or it leads to a score. That's on you. And so that's where it is tough between – when people just automatically want to go after the coaching staff, they want to go after Odom and they want to go after Browse. One, you got to have the players, but you got to have them in the right spots. They got to give the right effort. On that one play where Bryce Young just walked into the end zone, there was so much confusion. The guy he didn't know to just go up and run at him. He looked behind at him, and then there was a guy that was on the receiver, so he could have went and got on Young, but again, I'm not out there on the field, so it's just looking from a bird's eye view, and of course, watching from the couch. You can make all these adjustments and what they need to do, but it's different than going out there and doing it. But there's just it was just one of the things that you thought when they went on that 23-0 run and the stadium was rocking, the fans were going crazy. You thought this was going to be it, and then that long play happened and you just felt defeated. You just never got it back. And I think when, but Alabama seen blood in the water and they just took advantage of it. And you see the final score 49-26. But it's like I said, just it's okay to be frustrated, because when you knew you had the game, We can't be
Right.
okay. Well, it's Alabama. They were going to beat us anyway. Well, if they wouldn't have lost their quarterback, it would have been worse. Yeah, it would have been. But that's why you play the game of football, and
Exactly right.
you got to bounce back because, again, we're talking about 3rd and long. Well, Mississippi State was 5 of 12 on 3rd down conversions. So, I mean, you take that and our biggest kryptonite and what they did against Texas A&M. I mean, that's something you got to get fixed. You can't let them get in 3rd and longs and then let them get first downs, because not only does that ruin the momentum of the game, it wears your defense down. Because you're amped up on that 3rd down. All right, all we got to do is get this stop. Now we got to do it all over again.
Yep. And bringing back a couple of things there that we haven't talked about on the show yet is the effort and motivation factor in the game. Another one is maybe we are missing some of the leadership that we had last year on the defensive side of the football. You had Grant Morgan, you had Hayden Henry, you had Monteric Brown. You're absolutely missing Jalen Catalon again this year. I think a lot of that has to do with those guys had the heart of Razorbacks. They put the state of Arkansas on their shoulders, and they played unhuman-like football last season, because 2 of those guys were former walk-ons, and they gave their heart and soul and left blood on the field every single week. And this year, with the effort issues, like, and I'm probably going to tick some people off of what I'm about to say, but Sam Pittman has to figure out what switch to flip, because these guys are coming out flat. And he alluded to that in the halftime interview, where his guys, they aren't showing up the first half. It did not show up at all. They were playing flat. They came out flat. There was effort, but there was no motivation to say, okay, let's keep this drive going. Let's keep going. Maybe that has to do with some play calling. Is Kendall Briles actually calling the kind of offensive game that he wants to call? Because even Sam Pittman said that maybe we're being a little bit too run heavy and need to air it out more. I don't know what needs to happen there as far as play calling and stuff goes, but you have to play, because going all the way back to the final 7 minutes of the South Carolina game, the first 50 minutes against Missouri State, and then you played 2 quarters against Texas A&M, and then you played 1 quarter against Alabama. That is not going to win you ball games. It's unacceptable, and they've got to figure that out. I feel like I've regurgitated that every single weekend because it's true. Because Arkansas is simply not getting it done and not coming into a game fully with their head on their shoulders every single week, and it's costing them ball games.
Yeah, and you look at coming out and doing something different and not being so run heavy. I mean, they try to throw it. They tried to throw it there, and KJ was. When it comes to his passing, overall, he was 13 of 24, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown. Got sacked 3 times. We got to look, and some of the, he made some spectacular plays. That one where he was almost getting brought down and threw the ball and really sparked. You're talking about sparking the team and the fans. That just sparked the team. And they went, I want to say they ended up going down and scoring on that drive, but there was also some throws that were overthrown and underthrown. Was not hit. Yeah. So, it's here's the thing, you got to have confidence as a quarterback knowing you're going to make these throws. And then on the coaching side, you got to be able to be confident that, okay, if we're going to mix this up a little bit, especially against a defense like Alabama, can we afford an interception? Can we afford a pick 6? KJ, you're being a run heavy quarterback. You're always going to be trying to, in your head, try to stretch the play out, try to do something extra. You see what happened to Bryce Young. There should have been no reason at all. He should have tried to fling that ball. And when he did, tore something in his shoulder or popped something. I don't know what the diagnosis is.
Came out and said it's sprained. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he
sprained AC joint.
But what
But
it looked
he's
like,
pro.
it just but the thing is, he tried to do too much on that play. And that's what worries me about KJ is you're always, as a competitor, you're like, well, if I can just flip it, it works. But does it work 3 times out of 10? It's one of them deals that we just need to see an overall better performance out of the whole team. And what was crazy was it was like, all right, the first game, they really had the run game going. We looked really good. I mean, Rocket Sanders had another 100-yard game. 22 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. KJ Jefferson had 67 yards. You had Sanders did his part, but we just got to get more production, and I hate to throw this name out there, but what Brett Bielema said, he wanted 200 yards passing and he wanted 200 yards rushing. Well, they got 227 from, the rushing side and had 190 passing. So they're almost there, but you look at the touchdowns, you had 2 touchdowns passing and one rushing, or 1 passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. So on top of all the turnovers they give you, all the bad snaps and the onside kick, they should have got more out of that than what they did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the whole momentum thing, I thought Kendall Browse called a pretty good third quarter, trying to get that momentum and taken care of. And it was just that darn 77-yard run by Jalen Milroe. And we knew he was going to do it because and if Arkansas would have stopped them on that third down play, they get the ball back with all the momentum. I mean, you're on third down, you're about to force them into their third straight 3 and out of the drive, and you're that close, man. You're that close to changing the momentum and changing the trajectory of this program. And, it just didn't happen, like you said. But, you look at it this way, and we wouldn't be so negative on this team if they had just made that field goal and got out of Jerry's world last week with a W. 4-1's a whole lot different outlook than 3-1. But it's just.
But I'd made the point, before the game. It was almost like you think about if they won that game and they're 4-0 coming into this game. Alabama's 4-0. I was thinking, game day would have been here. All the pressure, this is the game. This is all the, the theatrics and the interviews and, all the production stuff that, game day goes into getting Coach Pittman and Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson, would that have been too much? It was almost like I was hoping that loss, and how heartbreaking of a loss that it was, that it would have took a little bit of the pressure off of them to come out this week, and they would have performed, but they wouldn't have gotten a 28-0 hole. You barely get in a 28-0 hole against Missouri State, and you almost won the game, but you then end up getting blown out. But you cannot let Mississippi State go out to a 14, 21-point lead, or it's going to be the same outcome, especially because, they throw the ball. I mean, and they throw it heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Rogers was 31 of – just think about this. He was 31 of 45 with 329 and 3 touchdowns. Threw the ball 45 times.
And Mike Leach doesn't care if he scores 70 on you or not.
No.
He's going to go out and he's going to kill you. If he sees any kind of crease in that defense, he's going to keep calling it over and over and over again. And it's not like Will Rogers beats you totally with all these long balls. I mean, they sprinkle it out to the running backs, 5-yard screen pass, 5-yard route out of the backfield screen passes, kind of short intermediate throws. They don't kill you with the 60-yard bombs. It's like a substitute for the run game. And so if Arkansas, if they're continuing to have the issues of tackling in the open field, man, it may be a field day for the Mississippi State offense. And Will Rogers may put up 500 yards. And that's what scares me the most about it, too, is, you go into the game maybe 4-1 or even 5-0, and we may be talking things a little bit differently. But, here you are 3-2, and we're seeing the issues that this team has had throughout the season as far as the Razorbacks go. Yeah, offense. I'm not too. I'm not too afraid of what they'll do against Mississippi State offensively. But defensively, if you get down 20, like you said, 14-21, it may be an insurmountable lead to overcome, especially with how fast they can score.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They know Arkansas it's almost like in basketball terms. You know that, okay, say Arkansas comes into a game and they got one guy that's going to get 21 points a game, and then the rest of the team, is role players and facilitators. Okay. They might be like, okay, we know Rocket Sanders is going to get his 100 yards, but let's contain him to 1 to 2 touchdowns. Because are they going to outscore us? Let's make them run the ball. Let's make them eat the clock. We don't respect them enough in the passing game to outscore us. So let's let Rocket Sanders get his. He's going to have 100 yards, or even if he goes off for 150, 200 yards. All that matters at the end of the game, he can have 300 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. But if they get 7 of them, those 3 don't really mean nothing. I mean, you can sit there and brag and say, well, Rocket had 300 yards rushing against you. Well, they're willing to trade that for the 500 they're going to put up on you passing. So, I mean, this is things that you got to start thinking about as a team are they just going to start they're just going to start boxing. They're going to put 8 men in the box, and they don't respect that your throwing game. And if you do get a couple of touchdowns, then they're going to back up. But they're going to make you – their teams are going to start making Arkansas beat you through the air. And that's just how it's going to be. But Mississippi State's coming into this game. Can Arkansas outscore us? We're going to throw it 40 times. Right. Can Arkansas stop it? So, I mean, it's a give or take kind of deal. But I'm telling you right now that the game, unless, something just barring just happens, and it's crazy to think that Arkansas went on a 23-0 run against the number 2 team in the nation, and now we're talking about a team that just now got in the top 25. They're going to have the same amount of troubles with them. And it's crazy, but that's how college football is, and that's how football in the SEC is.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. And like you said, I think Rocket can have success. I think Mississippi State's one of the weaker run defenses in the conference. If I read so correctly, I'll have to go back and recheck that. But Mike Leach will like you said, will substitute just mediocre defense for offense. We've seen that. He has a history of it. You go back to his Kentucky days, you go back to his Texas Tech days, and Washington State days. Because he'll outscore you, and he has no problem just, like I said earlier, running the score up. Looking at their run game, I think Arkansas will probably kind of, I guess, have the same style of defense of what they played against Alabama. To be honest with you, because are they going to play more rush 3 drop 8?
Well, you can this game because you don't have a guy that Will Rogers didn't even run the ball one time. He is a drop back quarterback. That is the huge difference between the Missouri State quarterback, Bryce Young, and what we're going to be facing. Totally different quarterback. So yes, you can drop because Will Rogers is not a threat to when it comes to run. It's almost like if you want to, like what the Arkansas defense is going to do, we're going to make you run and beat us. They only had 144 yards rushing, but they held Texas A&M to 136. I mean, Etienne had 116, but he didn't have a touchdown.
Right.
King and Johnson had a touchdown rushing.
So is Arkansas, who leads the country in sacks, are they going to try to rush Will Rogers? That you're going to have, because the way he throws the ball out of the backfield, you're going to have to come out with your hands up, maybe try to alter some passes, try to bat passes down with the pass rush, maybe have Drew Sanders kind of flank through the end, try to get around the left tackle or right tackle, try to be active in pass defense too. They're going to have to be really handsy this Saturday as far as it goes to kind of trying to deflect passes and try to kind of disengage the Mississippi State offense from their mojo offensively.
I think it's very tough, and this is the thing. Can you get to him fast enough?
You're gonna have to create turnovers.
If you can't get to him fast enough, you don't rush.
No.
Because if you blitz, if the blitz is coming from that left side, he's going to turn, look at the left side, and he's going to dump it right over. He's going to find those holes.
It's a king of a hot read offense.
You know, and they were, I mean, that's the thing, like with Bryce Young, he's a run. I mean, he'll pass, but he's a running quarterback. So he wants to kind of bait you into pocket, run. Opposed to Rodgers is just going to sling it all over the field. You know, I just until this defense proves that they can just shut somebody down in the passing game, I think you do the best you can to contain it.
Yeah.
You know, just like what I said with containing, you know, the quarterback. That was the thing that blew the game up, is containing the quarterback. You couldn't contain Young, and then you couldn't contain Milroe when he come in. He was getting 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, and then that long one from 77. You know, you come after, and this is a game that we've seen. You know, one big play can change the momentum of the game, and I think you got to do the best you can to get your hands up, try to bat down some of these balls. Hopefully, you get a tip and a turnover. But the gambling, they haven't showed me enough when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. And I think, you know, yeah, they're leading the league in sacks, but I mean, that can be inflated. Look at the teams that they kind of played to begin with. I mean, you had an inexperienced quarterback with that was a running quarterback, Missouri State, and then, you know, with Cincinnati, and then of course what, you know, Rattler was at South Carolina. I mean, are those numbers inflated? Because now these next 4 games, we'll see where they're at sack-wise when they're playing Alabama, Mississippi State, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, BYU. And BYU doesn't scare me. And that's the thing. I don't have, even after, you know, Arkansas had the outings they have, I'm not concerned at BYU, because BYU has shown that they're not the team. They're equivalent to me to Cincinnati. And I think, you know, Arkansas should, even going out there and all that stuff, they should handle that, just running the ball, and they don't have, you know, what it takes to stop Arkansas's run game. But I'm really concerned about this game coming up, just for the fact that he's going to throw it 40 to 50 times.
Yeah, and it will wear you out. You think when you know, back in the day when you play Alabama, it was just run. Now your defensive backs, it's just, you know, you are gassed, and you know, you don't think about it, but Mississippi State's got to be a well-conditioned team, because not only do they do air raid, they do it very fast. It's a no huddle thing now, and so it's going to be a very interesting thing on Saturday to see how they line up on defense and play against State. I know I keep regurgitating the same thing over and over again, but it's just you're going to have to make sure that you keep everything in front of you and keep the yak yardage down. Because I'm not scared of the run game, but I'm absolutely scared of what they can do as far as hot read offenses. Because, you know, once you see the safety creep up and helping coverage, there's your hot read over the middle, and you go 70 yards on the first play of the ball game, you know, or first play of the drive, and it completely kills all the momentum that you gain throughout the game, whether you're up maybe 10-7 or 17-7, and then you bring them right back in the game, and then you get the Klinga going again down there in Starkville. It's going to be a very interesting game on Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that after the break. We are coming up on a commercial break, and after the break, we will continue talking about the Mississippi State game. You know, just the biggest concerns that Arkansas is going to have to get fixed right away. What can they kind of deal with? And we'll, you know, touch on, you know, the quarterback situation. Is there controversy? Is there not? I mean, what does this mean to the locker room? Is, you know, talk about bad timing. Is this the wrong timing for this kind of problem? But we'll get after that after the break. Do you need those pesky stumps ground before the winter? Your pasture brush hogged, or need your driveway bladed? Here at Grind It Right Outdoor Services, we offer more than just stump grinding. We have recently expanded our business to include tractor work as well. So along with stump grinding, we offer bush hogging, land clearing, grading driveways, placing, and even spreading gravel. We are locally owned and operated, so call Danny today for a free quote at 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641. Again, that is 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years in the industry, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
Camelot Exteriors specializes in identifying hail, wind, and other storm damage, as well as residential and commercial roof installations and re-roofing. We use only the highest quality materials from certified suppliers while putting a lifetime labor warranty on all of our roofs. Our mission is to provide our customers with the highest quality roofing project customized to fit each one of their needs and to provide exceptional service through the entire process. Camelot Exteriors is based in Norman, Oklahoma, but we proudly currently serve 9 other states as a premier nationwide roofing company. So call us today at 833-799-7663 for your free estimate. Camelot Exteriors, your storm damage restoration experts. If you want the best service and prices in Northwest Arkansas and Southwest Missouri for all your plumbing and electrical needs, then look no further than Corey Hyman, the plumbing electrical supply guy. Corey is in full steam ahead and providing the best electrical, plumbing, and septic supply service around. So call Corey at 479-301-8220 or email him at chindman, that's HINDMAN, at andersonp.com. Again, that is 479-301-8220.
McCoy Tiger Drug Store of Sheridan, Arkansas has been the top pharmacy in all of South Central Arkansas since 1895. They were also the 2020 Good Neighbor Pharmacy of the Year. They not only fix you up with your prescription with timely and friendly service, but also an elite gift shop. All your OTC needs, baby and wedding registries, tuxedo rentals, and much more. They're located at 821 North Rock Street in Sheridan. Give them a call today at 870-932-5121.
And we want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast, and thank you to all of our sponsors who make all this possible. And at the end of the show, we are going to introduce our newest sponsor of the Hog Talk podcast. And then we have another major announcement that we're going to do, adding a show to our lineup. So at the end of the show, we'll start with that. But continuing on with this Mississippi State talk, we knew coming into this season that we thought, in my eyes, we didn't know what we were going to get out of Mississippi State. And I kind of chalked it up as a win. But when we look at the overall schedule and me saying, 9 wins, this is one of the ones that Arkansas has to have to get that 9 wins, in just my opinion, when you look at the remaining schedule. So seeing how Mississippi State is doing, that 9-10 win season's kind of in jeopardy, and maybe it pushes it to an 8-win season. And even if they do go to an 8-win season, like I said before in the preseason, you drop down to 8 wins. That's not a failure. That's not like, oh, the sky's falling. That just shows how tough the SEC is. And with, Will Rogers and Mississippi State and Leach, it's going to be an air raid. Can they slow it down enough to outscore them?
And that's the question. That's $1 million question, Porter. Maybe $5 million question for Sam Pittman, because this is probably the biggest game that he has ever coached in his time in Fayetteville. And it all comes up to this, because this is what decides the outcome of this season, I think. Because it's just like last season, where they started out the season 4-0, they lost 3 straight, and then they got back on track against UAPB. This time the schedule doesn't get any easier. There's not a UAPB on the schedule where you can rebound and kind of get things back going. You've got to stop Mike Leach's air raid offense. And like we said, you've got to you've got to play more protect. You've got to make sure you keep everything in front of you. You've got to tackle. You've got to make sure that you get these guys down and keep everything in front of you and stop the third down conversions, because this is what's frustrating most, is that every single time you get third down, you make a good stop on first and second downs, and you're thinking, I'll look at my father-in-law and I'll be like, it's going to start. I guess we can start calling this third and no. There's third and Chavis, where it seemed like Arkansas would never get off the field. Now you're getting to where, what is he going to draw up to help Arkansas stop State? And they're going to have to figure out some things defensively. They've got to play a full 4-quarter game. They've got to make sure they tackle and keep everything in front of them, and maybe force a couple of turnovers. LSU did it, and they were able to dictate what Mike Leach did on offense a couple of weeks ago. And I think LSU ended up winning 38-17, 31-17, whatever it was. But you've got to figure, you got to go back to what worked before. You had your rush 3 drop 8, maybe not be so dependent on the pass rush, and maybe drop your guys in coverage and be more sure tackling.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is a be-all, end-all game for Coach Pittman. I don't think that it's anywhere like that, because say you do drop this game, that puts you at 1-3 in conference and 3-3 overall. All right, you got at BYU, and we don't know what's going to Auburn. I mean, Auburn's a dumpster fire right now. We don't know if they're going to be a coaching change between now and then or not. I think you handle at BYU, dealing with Auburn and what they're going for. That I see that as, like I said, a win there. Then you have Liberty at home and then LSU at home. Another one that we don't know their true identity yet. They don't know what they are. So if Auburn was the Auburn of old, LSU was the LSU of old, when you go past Mississippi State, the one that really concerns me the most out of all those is Ole Miss. We seen, Missouri hung with Georgia. I mean, how much weight do we hold to that? I mean, Georgia's they're in a funk right now, 2 games straight, Kent State, now Missouri. Were they a pretender? Did they get too much hype too early and start blowing everybody out, and now everybody's catching up to them? I'm not saying that they're still not a top 5 team, but questions are starting to be asked. So if they were still going through a gauntlet of what it used to be like in the SEC, yeah, I could see that this is a very important game. But, I mean, so you do drop this. You go 3-3. You win at BYU, win at Auburn, win at home against Liberty. That's 6-3. Then, the toss-up with LSU, you got them at home. Say you win that one. Now you're 7 wins. So you have to really win. You're at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you got to win all but one of your next games to get to that 9 wins.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't see them beating Mississippi State just by the way they throw and how we've been playing on the defensive end. Again, I could be wrong and get turnovers, but after that, it starts to, ease up a little bit until you get to that Ole Miss game.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say this is the biggest game in what defines Sam Pittman's tenure at Arkansas. I think it's a defining point of this season.
Yeah, and I know what you're coming from.
You lose a third straight game. Yeah. I think this is one of the biggest games that he's ever had to coach, because you're coming off of a 2-point, or not a 2-point, I'm sorry, but 2 losses in a row, and especially in 2 games where you had control of the ball game in both games and had the potential to win both games. So you look at both sides and you're thinking, okay, Arkansas's right there. They got to get there. If they can get their Jimmys and Joes, how impactful is it for recruiting? Anyways, going back to that. But this is a huge game for Sam Pittman, and a game that I want to know is Sam Pittman going to have his team ready? Is he going to have a team that goes out and fights for him all 4 quarters? And that's what Arkansas needs this Saturday, is a 4-quarter and catch maybe Mississippi State by surprise. You've got an 11 o'clock kick. You've got Mississippi State ranked. Maybe the cowbells won't be as loud as what they would be at a 6 o'clock game. So there's a lot of things going for Arkansas and against Arkansas in this game, but I don't know if I'm going to pick Arkansas in this game yet. I don't know, and I know that's the homer in me because I want to pick Arkansas in every single game, but I don't know if I want to pick Arkansas in this game yet, just because of where they're at in the season with two straight losses. If they can correct some things, maybe the optimism will return and people will, the fans will return in the good graces, or Sam Pittman will, in the Hogs return into the good graces of the Hog fans again.
Yeah, and I was, I don't even think, to go back to your point about the biggest game, I don't even think this is the biggest game of this year, just for the simple fact of what I'd said before of you could still lose this game, drop to 1-3 in conference, win the rest of your games, and you're still sitting at 9-3, 4-3 in the conference. You go to a bowl game, you still win 10 games, or if you lose,
we've seen this
still 9-4. Yeah. And I just think with how everything lines up, so you do, you go 3, you can either end the season at 4-3, 3-4. I mean, if you win against Mississippi State, maybe you lose against Ole Miss. But I just think, this road trip, we're talking about things clicking and things turning around. We're going to find out a lot about this team mentally with the 3-game road trip. You go to Mississippi State, at BYU, and then go to Auburn. So, but between BYU and Auburn, you have a bye week. So we're going to know by November if this team is going to be bowl eligible or fighting to get in the bowl game. I mean, that's huge. Yeah. So, I mean, I think this stretch is very important. This might be the most important stretch when we talk about like getting back on track. But I mean, you really want to bounce back and beat Mississippi State at Mississippi State, but I don't think that it's on the level to say that this is the most important game, like even of this year.
Yeah. And maybe this season is going to be more of a 2015 season than it was a 2010 season. Now, I thought Arkansas had the chance to have more of a 2010 season early on this year. But now I'm thinking about it, you're sitting, even if you drop the game against Mississippi State, this season's starting to look more like a 2015 season where you're coming off 2014 and you have high expectations. And Sam Pittman said the expectations high. And we got to remember that, like, Sam Pittman and KJ during the offseason, they've said in SEC media days, we expect to win 10 games this season. That's what the expectation is. We expect to compete in the SEC. And so when people outside the SEC and people say, oh, well, Arkansas, man, they sure didn't live up to the hype. Well, obviously they haven't lived up to the hype so far. But it's not because that the fans built this team up to a certain extent. It's because Sam Pittman said, I expect this team to win 10 games and compete. And they have underwhelmed this season because he said, like, up and down this roster, we have a really good team. You had a returning quarterback and all that. But, you've got to figure out things. And maybe with a 1-2 or 1-3 start in conference play, maybe that gets this team refocused and looking forward to maybe in the stretch, like you mentioned earlier, with the BYU, with Auburn, get things back on track with a trajectory of 9-10 wins.
And that's the thing. You look at, let's say they get to that 9-10 win. Say they do get to a bowl game and they get to 10 wins with the bowl win. How much emphasis is really going to be? I mean, it's still going to sting, but you're not going to look back at the Mississippi State game or the Bama game. And I mean, the only thing that's really is the back of your mind, man, we could have been an 11-win team. We could have been a 10-win team if we would have took care of business. Look at, the what ifs. This is going to be the year of what ifs. What if that field goal would have, that goalpost wouldn't have been as high as a college, goalpost, and it went over and went in. What if we wouldn't have let them score on that third down play? You can do this what ifs, and that is one of the things that can tear you apart. So,
Yep.
But you look back at the end of the year, even if you finish it 9-4 again, you can't do nothing. Looking at where we are the last two games, and if you come out of this and finish 9-4, you can't do nothing but really tip your hat and be like, that's another successful year.
Yeah. And that's coaching to in mid-season say, man, we really stunk it up throughout the middle of the season. They were able to rebound. And that's the thing. Like it all comes down to coaching and having your guys in position and having your guys motivated week in, week out, take care of business. You can't do anything about what happened before, but you can absolutely take care of what's happening before you with the BYUs, with the Auburns, with the Mississippi States of the world. You can control that. And this team is absolutely talented enough to go out there and win out. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they're talented enough to go out there and take care of business. And, outside of Alabama, that and you look around the whole landscape of the SEC West, I mean, the number 2 spot in the SEC West was wide open this season. And it has been, and it still could be. So Arkansas's just got to refocus, regroup, and become build a bond again where you're just going to go out there with your back against the wall and try to win and try to win out or win 6 of your next 7 and still continue to improve.
And another thing you got to look at is just how crazy the East's been. What if somebody sneaks up? We want, as where we're at and situated in the SEC, we want Georgia to roll out. We do not want them to lose, because this is the reason why. It's almost like in March Madness when one of those conference champions that's run through the conference tournament, they get upset. Well, now somebody's taking their tournament spot. Okay. That's taking an automatic qualifier from somebody. Okay. Georgia gets beat. Now they go from that number 1 team and possibly being in the college football playoff to now being knocked down to that Sugar Bowl, which now knocks down another team into that Citrus Bowl, which,
Yep.
So you want Georgia to run the table, because if we keep on doing what we're doing and we finish it 9-3 heading into a bowl game, win everything out, and we do finish as that, say, number 2, number 3 team in the West, but it's also the number 3 team in the SEC as a whole, you could get a better bowl game when it comes to where you go, who you play against. So there's still a shot. I mean, this season is not over, and there is still a legitimate shot to make a very good bowl game. It's just there is things that need to, be questioned. And there's also, you don't know with what's going to happen internally. And we've touched on this, there seems to be some kind of, again, controversy on what's going on in the locker room with the quarterback situation. And, Malik Hornsby come out and said that he didn't say he was going to leave, and people were jumping into speculations. But, in a way, it's like, well, if you wouldn't give people a reason to say those things, they wouldn't say those things. So you know how fans are. I mean, they track planes. If they see that you scrub everything off Arkansas off your social media, they're going to jump to those conclusions. So it's not all on the fans. It's not all on the people who are jumping to those conclusions based on what those actions that you're doing. I know you're upset and you don't want people to jump to those conclusions, but still, in fact, you got to own up those actions that you still make of. Don't sit there and scrub your social media and then expect, especially after a game like that, and then you go do those things and then expect the fans not to react the way they did. I just don't think that's a fair. I mean, I know we get on the fans and say sometimes they go crazy. Now, I will say that you should never go after players, or you should never DM a player, call out a player. I mean, you can show your frustrations with the team on how they played. But Stephen A. Smith, as much as you hate him or like him or whatever, he made a very good point. He said, people hate me because, if I talk bad about them, how they played, that's fair game. When you go personal and you start personally talking to them, you start personally going to their DMs and you start talking about them as a human being, that's where you cross that line. We can sit here and say, well, this person missed this tackle and this person missed this catch. He's missing these throws. What's going on? We have every right. That is what we do. We break down these games. That's our job, to see and relay what we've seen on the field and critique it, whether it's good or bad. And I know they don't want to hear the bad stuff, but that is our right to say what we've seen. But when you start attacking, going personal with it, that's where the line stops. So I can see both ways of it. But then again, especially now, it's almost like a selfish move. Like, the team's already hurting coming off 2 losses in a row. That's going to get a reaction. Why even do that? Why put yourself and your team in that situation to have to answer those? That shouldn't even be a question that Pittman or anybody on that staff should be answering right now. The only questions they should be answering right now is, how are we going to make this team better? And when you go and do stuff like that, it just seems selfish on my end of it.
Yeah, and it's an all about me generation, and and we see it in my age too. Like, it's I want this, I want that, and then you have the NIL in it too, and it's a self-absorbed generation of a type of athlete. And Malik is he is ultra talented, one of the fastest guys that I've ever seen put on an Arkansas uniform, and you've got to figure out, and it's so hard. Like, I couldn't imagine being a head coach right now, because not only do you have to deal with the transfer portal with guys leaving maybe after 4 games into the season, then you've got to manage your roster throughout the season. You've got to recruit and manage your recruits throughout the season. You've got to figure out, well, how am I going to help these guys with NIL deals? Like, what if somebody else is jealous because other players on the team have more NIL deals than the other? Like, it's such a hard, it's a headache of things. And you've got guys that are freshmen or sophomores, and you have older guys in front of you. And 20 years ago, you didn't see freshmen out there playing much, in their first games, their first years. And it's just, you've got so much to put up with, and if guys aren't playing right away, they're transferring out. It is a nightmare, and I could not imagine. Like, you're trying to prepare for Mississippi State, but you're also trying to figure out a way to keep your players happy. Like, what are we going to see out of Malik Hornsby if he's not transferring? Like, or right now, are we going to see more packages for him going forward? I mean, there's a lot of questions.
2 ways of it. You could see a Mike Wood situation, or you can see a Trey Knox situation. You can have a guy go off to another school and choose that he feels like another school is his fit, or you can sit there and stay, do what you need to do to accept whatever role you're given. And I'm not saying that Malik needs to go out and be a wide receiver. I'm just saying stay in your goal. You make that is your choice to make, but you have to be held accountable for your choices that you do make. And another thing we kind of talked about and touched on, and I mean, it's kind of a touchy subject, but it's almost like, in the past, when people critique the kids and critique these athletes, well, they're student athletes. Well, that you shouldn't be doing that and this and that. Well, they're paid athletes now. So where is that line of these kids are getting paid to play now? So do you treat them almost like a professional athlete? They're making money going out there. They're making money off their name, image, and likeness, going out there and getting these deals. They should go out there and perform. Now, does that open up that new Pandora's box of what is expected out of them? Because now they are kind of considered paid players on the level of critiquing them. Again, I don't care if it's Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, or anybody. You should never go after a person's integrity at all, whatever. No. It's just when it comes to how much we can talk about, like if everybody wants to hear about the good stuff and the good plays and the catches, but if they're doing bad or somebody misses a blown assignment or misses tackles, when Hudson Clark was, getting all ate up and people were all over him and they were defending him. Well, I mean, he got a scholarship for one good game, so why can't we go after them if they have a bad game? It's almost like a parent. We know they can do better. That's why we're saying that they need to do better. This team is better than what happened. They shouldn't have allowed Alabama to get go 9 for 14 on third downs. They shouldn't have allowed a backup quarterback knowing what they were going to do and still can't stop it.
Or spotting them 28 points.
Exactly. I mean, it's a tough situation. But anyways, we're up against the hour. I mean, we can beat all that stuff with a dead horse, but I kind of want to add things, end things off on a positive note. But I really want to begin. He is one of our heavy listeners. He is actually a dear friend of mine. I've known him since I was a little kid. But this comment, Kendall Ward, been ready all day. Let's go, boys. Well, his daughter is a 2026, and she's been picking up offers from Colorado, and she just picked up an offer for the University of Arkansas. Really excited that she picked up this offer, and I know he is very excited too. Kaylee Ward, 26, graduated out of Mansfield, Arkansas, which is crazy that the basketball coach is from Ozark and her dad's from Ozark. So it's kind of a small world kind of deal. So I want to give a shout out to him, shout out to my guy Kendall and his daughter on picking up that offer. And we're also running into that. I am about to start a new show here at the Hog Talk. It's going to be a 30-minute show. I used to write some kind of articles and spotlight a player from the women's side of things, and I'm going to turn it into a show, a little 30-minute podcast. I haven't really buttoned down any of the details of what day. I'm still looking at the logistics of that, but it's going to be called the Weekly Women's Sports Report. It's going to be a 30-minute segment just dedicated to the women's side of things. We're going to do a rundown of all the games, the scores, try to spotlight a player, get some coaches in here, and get some really insight on the women's game, women's programs. You can't say enough about all the programs that are going on in Arkansas. Nobody else is doing it. So, that's my passion. So why not, do that? And then with the final thing, before we wrap things up, we do have a brand new sponsor to the show. We want to welcome Fordham Lee Distillery to the Hog Talk podcast. They are located in Middletown Valley in Maryland and was founded 50 years ago by the values of friends and family and just having a good time. Distillery is in honor of our founder's son, whose legacies are a spirit worth remembering. The spirit of our existence is to honor our sons who have passed before their time. We age our bourbon based on the time we were blessed with them. So our bourbons are cream-based whiskeys, all grain to glass, utilizing the finest facilities and technology to distillation. So they're non-GMO, utilizing local farms. The original 10-gallon is still in their tasting room. So we really want to welcome Fordham Lee Distillery. And during the bye week, we usually have a member of the upcoming team on our Wednesday preview show. But we're going to have Bill Poffenbarger, who is the founder of Fordham Lee Distillery, to come on and talk about his story, share how that was, the beginnings of the distillery, share a wonderful story. I mean, Bill is just a super nice guy. I'm very, very happy to have them aboard the Hog Talk podcast.
That's big stuff, man. Big stuff happening at Hog Talk. Man, Porter, you're doing a great job, man, leading this ship, and couldn't do it without you. And I look forward to having Fordham Lee Distillery with HTP, and hopefully we'll have a really good relationship with them going forward.
Well, I done told him, him being a bourbon guy, that I would, for him, you got to make our sponsors proud. I'm kind of against it. No, not really. But for him, I told him that, before each show, I'm going to get some of his bourbon and we're going to take a shot, start off the show. And I'm going to tell everybody, do not forget to drink your Ovaltine. So we're going to start off the show, each live show, with a shot of Ovaltine. So, but really looking forward to that. Wednesday, we have our preview show coming up on Wednesday to talk about the Mississippi State game and other games going on in the crazy world that is the SEC. But Jacob, you got anything else, brother?
No, I'll have an article out on Saturday Down South this week. It'll be breaking down the biggest keys to an Arkansas victory against State. So just watch out for that one.
All right. Well, as always, that will do it for another episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Myself, Porter Hayes, alongside me, Jacob Davis, and we will catch you on Wednesday.